Well, hello again, my friends, and welcome once more to the Invisible College. My name, if you don't know, is Adrian Gilbert, and well, it's a lovely day here, actually. We've got the fire going, as you can see. I had some complaints last time I did a fireside chat. There was no fire. I was just using it as a metaphor. But I thought, well, this time let's do it with an actual fire in the grate. It warms the heart, doesn't it? And all you people who are so anti-CO2, all that CO2 going up the chimney, well, CO2 is actually plant food. So we live in quite a forested area here, and these logs that I burn are actually apple logs, and they come from the apple orchards where they have to cut down trees when they get to a certain age and they're not productive, and they plant new ones. So there's a cycle of life going on. Trees grow, the trees are cut down, the logs are burnt, they make CO2, which is absorbed by other trees to make more growth. It's the way life works, you know, and we need to get used to that. It's a tiny amount, isn't it? And nature is as important to nature, as important to vegetation as oxygen is to us. You know, they actually take this in, it's their food. So we shouldn't be so worried, I think, about the CO2 in the air. Maybe there is some global warming going on, but I think that's to do with cosmic rays and the sun and the cycles, you know, the long cycles of sunspots that we go through. There's the 11-year cycle, and there are longer cycles to do with epochs. And you can see that in the records of all the ice drillings. Anyway, that wasn't what I was going to talk about today. I just wanted to talk about the Invisible College, where we've got to so far, where I hope it's going to go. And this is really, you know, if those of you who've been with me for a while, you've probably got a fair understanding about where we're going. But I thought for the people who are new, who maybe only just come across this channel, I'll tell you a little bit about it, sort of what it's really all about. And it's actually very, very simple in the end. And I'll give you an analogy. Some of you, I expect, own hybrid cars. Now, I don't. I don't have an electric car. I don't have a hybrid car. I've got an old banger. Does me all right. I don't have to drive very much these days. Does me all right. And I'm quite happy with that, you know. I don't need anything flash. But let's suppose that you have a hybrid car, right? Now, let's suppose that you drive your hybrid car, you fill it with petrol, and the petrol, there's a little petrol engine in there which makes electricity, which goes into a battery, and the actual driving mechanism of the car is driven by an electric motor, right? So you're happy going around, you know, filling up with petrol, driving so many miles, and then you have to fill again. Nobody's told you, this is hypothetical, nobody's told you that there's actually a flap you can open on the back of the car and you can plug it in to an electric circuit and charge the battery up directly, much more quickly and cheaply. Nobody's told you that. So you're going around getting petrol and paying a lot of money and tax and the rest of it for that. Well, that's an analogy to us. We have a hybrid car in our body. We eat food. We eat food, and from our food and the air that we breathe, we manufacture electricity. And most of our body systems run on electricity. They don't run on heat. They don't run on cereal. They don't run on cornflakes. They run on electricity. And as long as your body has enough electricity, you feel fine. You feel great, charged up. When that charge starts to go down and it gets too low, you start feeling ill. And the problem with old age is that as we get older, so the mechanism for turning that food, releasing the energy from it and turning it into electricity, it gets weaker. And so we have less energy. We become exhausted more quickly. We don't have enough energy to rebuild cells that have died, not to the same extent. And so we gradually age and things go wrong, and eventually one or another system in us packs up. Might be your heart, might be your liver, might be your lungs, or your brain. Something's going to pack up. and then, it's bye-bye and into the wooden coffin and, maybe reincarnate, you hope. But that's the reality of life. We are driving around or walking around in hybrid bodies that run on electricity but make the electricity from the food and the air that we breathe. But what if I told you that it is possible to plug in directly to a much bigger circuit? Yeah, to plug in to the universal circuit that drives all of nature, drives everything actually, drives the planets, drives the sun, drives the Milky Way, drives everything. And that universal energy is what's called the Logos in Christianity. Now, my work is very much centered on Christian mysticism. If you're into Buddhism, you're into Islam, you're into Hinduism, well, you might get something from what I say, but I don't go down those paths. I follow the Western way, which is essentially Christianity. But Christianity with a different flavor. I'm not into just the ritual. I was brought up as a Catholic, lots of ritual there. I'm not into that particularly. I don't like it very much. I think it distracts. On the other hand, I'm not a fundamentalist, bashing your Bible and saying, just repent for your sins and everything will be all right. Get on your knees and don't forget to put some money into place as well. I believe that we have to kind of research Christianity like we research everything else. See, I'm a scientist at heart. When we dig deeper, we find out things that are deeper. And what was taught to the apostles wasn't, everything. Jesus used to take just 3 of them away sometimes and give them extra instruction. Yeah, Peter, James, and John. And of those 3, only John survived to old age. The other 2 are martyred. So, and he's the one who wrote a gospel. It's the most mystical gospel in the Bible. And he wrote some letters, but most importantly, he wrote the Revelation. So I've been doing a lot of lectures on that, trying to unravel, because there's a lot of mystery in that book, a lot of secrets contained there, if you can only open it. And of course, we were told that you can't open it until the time is right. Well, the time is right now. We are living at the end of a long cycle to do with nature, to do with the stars, to do with the sun. It's a long cycle. These things go in periodic waves. And we're at one of those peaks. And so it becomes possible because there's going to be big changes on this earth. So what is this esoteric school? It is an esoteric school, this college, Invisible College, all about? Well, I'm giving you parts of a jigsaw puzzle. I can't do the work for you. Each of you will have to do the work yourself if you want to come down this path. It's like if we go mountaineering. I can't climb the mountain for you. I can teach you things about what to do. Yeah? How to put, the things in, the crampons, the clothing you should wear, the rope you should take, all of that. But in the end of the day, you've got to climb the mountain. Nobody else can do it for you. And when you've done that, you're an initiate of having mountaineered. Well, it's the same with the esoteric way. Nobody can do it for you because it's a process of growth. You see up here, you can't see it very well, can you? There's a hyacinth, right? Now, I planted these bulbs a few weeks ago before the winter, and now they come into flower. Now, the hyacinth itself is just a bulb, but treat it right, grow it, give it water, give it the right conditions, and it produces a beautiful flower. Well, it's exactly the same with the human being. We have a lot of potential in us which is not realized because our world is a fallen world. Now, let's explain what that means. Throughout creation, there are worlds like this. There are other planets with people on them that maybe don't look exactly like us, but have a similar kind of function. There'll be animals and there'll be plants, there'll be things as well. But those ones are connected. We live in a particular world which has become disconnected. This is what the fall of Adam is all about in the Old Testament, the book of Genesis, that Adam ate the fruit. The fruit that he ate was physicality in the earth. That apple is actually symbolic of the earth. And he becomes a physical being living according to the laws of nature. Before that, he's a higher being than that. And he was connected to the Logos stream, but he becomes disconnected. And then he's told, you must get out of the garden, you can't be in here because you're no longer fit. You're going to have to make your own bread, and you're going to have to dig the ground to grow things to live on. And all the ground's going to produce is just thistles and weeds. You're going to have to cultivate it to make your bread. It's going to be hard work. There you go. You chose it. What that is saying is he's lost the ability to put the plug in. He's got a hybrid motor. He can eat the stuff the earth will produce. If he can find it, if he can grow it, he can eat it. And if he does that, he can make electricity. But only for a certain time, because these bodies don't last. Yeah, I believe Bill Gates is doing some research now, and there's great excitement in the press about how they think they're going to be able to extend life to 150 years. Well, good luck with that, Bill. You're going to go down just like the rest of us, sooner probably than later. So this whole idea of trying to prolong the physical body is not the true way. The true way is to reconnect. And it's not the body that you want to reconnect, it's your soul, which is who you are. You are a soul living in a body, experiencing life in the physical world. Physical world, you can call it the matrix if you like. Matrix means mother. So it's the mother world, all physicality. You experience it here, but you are actually a soul, and after you die, that soul comes out of that body, and you have to face the consequences of how you've lived that life. But that's a whole other subject. What I want to tell you now is what we're about is trying to prepare ourselves to reconnect our souls back to the Logos stream, which comes from God. Now, I know that word God is out of fashion with many people. And they say, well, there's no such thing as God. Well, look at it this way. How did it all come about? Now, you're going to say to me, well, it's evolution, isn't it? Simple. Haven't you studied your Darwin? Well, Darwin was a liar. He was a liar because he tried to trick everyone, or he did trick everyone, to believing that things can happen just by accident, that a few molecules can get together and become alive. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in nature. Everything has to have the gift of life before it can grow. And they said, well, once you've got something that's alive, it can just mutate spontaneously, survival of the fittest. Bob's your uncle, we're where we are. Well, I want to give you another example, going back to cars again. Now, if you were, let's say you came from another planet and you landed on some island, well, let's say, for example, Cyprus. There's an example. And you saw all these different kinds of vehicles around. They don't have a factory there to make cars. I don't think they do with Cyprus. But imagine it's a place where they don't make cars. So he sees all these cars and he sees lorries and he thinks, well, how do these come about? Well, I don't know. I mean, it's a mystery. And he starts categorizing them. He says, well, there's all these different kinds of cars. There's ones that just have chairs in them. There's bigger ones with more chairs. There's ones that you can open the back and you can put stuff in, but still mostly chairs. And then there's other ones which are vans. They call them vans, because they're closed up at the back, all just for carrying goods. And there's bigger things called lorries or trucks, and you can carry really big stuff in those, but really not much good for passengers. And then you got ones that got big wheels on them, 4-wheel drive, and you can drive on off track on those. There's all these different things. They've all evolved from a primary prototype. I can see that because they've all got wheels on, they've all got an engine, they've all got drive shafts, they've all got basically similar things. So they must have come from the same origins. And you can trace back a family tree for the development of all of the wheeled vehicles that we would call cars, trucks, vans, all of these. And he says, right, well, they must have spontaneously changed. It's as simple as that. A need arose, something found that niche, and it just spontaneously changed. Now, we know that that's nonsense. We know that back in Dusseldorf or Cologne or somewhere, they were busy making those BMWs. Or in England, they're making other things, mostly Japanese cars, actually, in Sunderland. Or in America, they've got big car factories there, they're making them there. But when you're living in Cyprus, if you don't know, if nobody tells you, then you might assume, oh, they just spontaneously happened. Well, that's the same thing as I see as life here. Things don't just happen through evolution. It takes a lot of intelligence to create even a single thing like a kidney. Or, I call it simple, but it's very complex. And it has to interact with all the other systems in the body. The heart, it's a muscle that just does that, but it's absolutely crucial to the way that the entire body operates. And it has to be connected. And it's got to run for the full length of your life. Otherwise, you die. Or brain, incredibly complex. And yet that has to be integrated into everything. So very high intelligence has gone into creating this nature. Even just a simple mouse, let alone a human being, is a creation of extraordinary achievement. And it hasn't just come out of the ground spontaneously by mutations because of some ray changed a little bit of DNA here and there. That is nonsense and it's a lie. The problem is that lie has been promulgated so much that everybody's brainwashed. And it's the same with many other subjects in science. We're brainwashed. We're brainwashed into thinking the sun is a giant atomic bomb. It's not. There's all sorts of contradictions in that model, which is part of the standard model of cosmology. Actually, the outer parts of the sun are much higher temperature than the inner part. How would that happen if there was a bomb in the middle of it? Answer me that. Now you can try talking about bending magnetic flux. You don't bend magnetic flux. Magnetic flux only comes about where there's an electric changing current. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. Bending space, you can't bend space. Space is just what's there as a box, an empty box. And you can't bend the empty box. You can put things in it and you can bend them. Yeah, you could maybe bend a molecule or plastic. You can bend those sort of things, but you can't bend the space that they occupy. It's nonsense. So much of what we think is true is falsehood. And we've been tricked. And that trick goes back a very long way because there are certain fallen entities on this planet. This planet is a fallen planet. And so the whole purpose of the Bible and of Christianity is a rescue mission. And you need to see it in that light. Don't see it in terms of being holy, he's such a holy man, he goes to church. What it's all about is a rescue mission, and you're either going to get rescued or you're not. And you've got to make sure that you are one of the ones that climbs the mountain and gets rescued. That's what it's all about. And the rest is all interesting, but it's just detail. That's the important part, is the rescue mission. And the rescue mission comes through this man, Jesus Christ. Why does it come through him? Because he's connected to the Logos. That's why they call him the Son of God. Yeah, it's the Logos that is the Son of the outpouring of the breath of God is called the Logos. And someone who can unite his will totally with that, not my will, thy will, becomes the embodiment of the Logos and therefore of the Son of God. That's what it's all about. And he gave us a promise that he was going to come back. He had to do something in the last life to atone for us. Now, exactly why he needed to do that is beyond my pay grade. Yeah. But he had to go through that whole thing, overcoming death, basically, proving that when you die, that doesn't have to be the end. And he did that by resurrecting. Now, if you're a skeptic, you say, well, there's no such thing as resurrection. It's all a myth. It's all a contrick by the Christians. They just hid his body. Or, he wasn't really dead. They opened the tomb up and he climbed out and nipped off to India to live out the rest of his time. Well, these are people who do not believe in the supernatural. They only think that if you can't measure it with a ruler or some kind of meter to measure current or some other machine that you can measure things with, it doesn't exist. Yet these very same people will tell you about dark matter in the universe. Can't see it, can't measure it, can't touch it, but it must be there, because otherwise our equations don't work. They think, they've invented this supernatural stuff they call dark matter. Then they invent other supernatural things like black holes. Complete nonsense. They don't exist either. But it's all done because they've created this mental construct, which is physical, to try to explain everything. But if they would only concentrate on what really matters, which is reconnection, then everything would be different. And that's what's going to happen, because we are coming to the end of the age. What's predicted in the book of Revelation is happening in our times. And I've done, I think, over 20 lectures on that book so far. And there'll be another 20 probably before I finished it. But there's lots of other lectures. And I've put a lot of stuff on YouTube. But we also have the Invisible College itself. And I'm very pleased to say we have 26 heroes. That's what I'm calling them, heroes, who've joined the college. It only costs you a basic £5 a month. There are other grades, you can pay more if you wish, but to be a member of the college costs you £5 a month. Not a lot, price of a pint of beer where I live. And this is the best way I can think of to create a school for everyone in the world, not just my local people who could come along and I could give little lectures and they could sit as an audience and we could discuss things. That would be lovely too, but through the internet, through the amazing methods that we have now of communication, I have members in the college now from Australia, from South Africa, from America, from Europe, obviously a lot from Britain, and we can all join in together. And this is just at the beginning. These are the 26 heroes who've joined in the first instance. They're founder members, and I have huge respect for them. In fact, I love them for the trust that they've shown. But I want more. I want it to be 50 members by Easter. So if you're watching this, and have a look at more of my lectures. Don't necessarily just trust me. Adrian, I'm not a used car salesman, by the way. Look at my other lectures. I think there's over 80 on YouTube. And then I'm doing other ones now, which are exclusively for the college as we get into more detail. More and more, the lectures I'm going to do are going to be split. There'll be probably going to be more and more for the college and fewer for the general YouTube audience. But I will still carry on doing YouTube lectures. But my focus now is going to be more on the heroes who've come along and put their money where their mouth is and trusted me enough to say, yeah, we want to learn, we want to find out more. And I think that's only reasonable. It might be that some of those lectures will be released later on, but at the moment, that's the way things are going. So if you want to join the college, then the way to do it is through patreon.com. And patreon.com, Adrian Gilbert. Look up Adrian Gilbert on there and you'll find it. And you'll find exactly how to do it. And there's different levels. I've given them chess names. So the basic level is pawn, P-A-W-N, not P-O-R-N, P-A-W-N. And then there's knight, and then there's baron, which is a castle, and then there's royal, which is the equivalent of a queen. So you don't have to go up those higher levels. There's no need, but you can join as a pawn at £5 a month. There's not a lot to ask, is it? And take it from there. And you can leave any time if you don't like it. So this is where we're going. And I thought I'd have a little chat now in front of the fire, real genuine fireside chat, and tell you exactly what's what and what's going on. So that's what I plan now. And I want, once we get to 50, maybe I'll do it before then, but when we get to 50, I want to see about doing live events online. You know, you've seen this with other channels where, you know, you can log in and there can be some kind of question and answer session. I've got to learn how to do that. It's another, you know, there's all these, I'm having to go through an enormous number of learning curves. I'm building the website at the moment, and believe me, that is a hell of a learning curve. I thought WordPress was meant to be really easy, but it turns out that the details of it, the devil's in the detail, to get it to do what you really want to do is difficult. There's all sorts of things you have to learn about appearances and the different apps that work with it, the plugins and you know, themes they call them, that give you the different looks, and then the sub-themes that go with it is a nightmare, to be honest with you. But I'm getting there, and I will get that up and running, and then we'll have a home on the internet, a proper home, which you'll all be able to go and visit and go to, and hopefully we'll have some kind of a forum there that you can send things. You can always write to me anyway, send an email. But there we go. That's where we are at the moment, and I'm looking forward to 2022. I think it's going to be a good year. We're getting out of this COVID, which, by the way, I did say that this was the first woe, as it's called, in the book of Revelation. Look that up. It's described. They talk about this sort of flying scorpion things that wear a corona, yeah, a crown. Anyway, there's a second woe coming in due course. I hope it's not too soon. But anyway, that's where we are now, and I wish you well in your way, whatever you choose to do, whoever you are, because we're all in this world together. So good luck with your life. Thank you.